Yes? I'm a university professor. Usually people can hear me. All right, I'm talking to Mike. So, like he said, in 2010, I summited Mount Everest. I decided to do that when I was age 48 and never climbed so much as a hill. And a few months after I decided to train for Mount Everest, I was diagnosed with a super rare fatal disease. And so my doctors were very unhappy when I wouldn't give up my dream to climb Mount Everest, which I ultimately did 2.5 years later.
Yes.
I became the 40th American female to summit Mount Everest and the oldest female that year. So then I got home and people are like, well, what are you going to do next? Run the Alaska-Yukon. And it was meant as a joke. However, I thought about it and I said, well, that would be an awesome experience, although I've never drove a dog team. So I contacted Lance Mackey and told him, and you can't tell Lance you can't do anything, as everybody knows when he had cancer and was supposed to die, and they said you'd never be able to do it, and we all know what he did. And so I started training with him, and my first Iditarod, unbeknownst to me, I started with a broken pelvis in 2013, and I made it 10 days before I had to ultimately scratch because I couldn't stand up anymore. And that was supposed to be it. I was supposed to get one chance at it. And then my husband, because he's my husband, he's such a sweetheart, said, well, you worked really hard, give it a second try. So that was last year, and we all know the trail conditions and the gorge, and that took me out last year. And by then I was working with Vern Halter. Thank you, Vern, for all your help. And again, that was supposed to be it, because this isn't a cheap sport. It may look like a cheap sport, but it is definitely not a cheap sport. And so my husband, before I even got back to the kennel, said, you know, go ahead and talk to Vern and try it a third time. So I was a third-time rookie this year when I started, and the trail, even though everybody thought it was going to be flat, was quite challenging with the record-breaking temperatures and the river running and the camping out, and it was actually very difficult. And to me, it isn't a matter of, I don't know, I just kept doing what I was supposed to be doing and taking care of my dogs like I was supposed to, and they were happy and I was happy, and we just kept moving down the trail and got in last night, a little late for the banquet, but we got in, and you know, my dogs are out there, they're great, and the whole experience was great, and so I got this banner, because when I got diagnosed with a rare disease, it took 14 years for them to diagnose me. And at that time from diagnosis to death was 5 months. And so I said, you know what, there was an answer those whole 14 years. I had to lose my vision in one eye before I got diagnosed and things like that. I have to do something to tell people that when doctors tell you they don't know, there's an organization, National Organization of Rare Disorders, that you can contact that'll send you to what I call the I don't know doctors. And that's what ended up happening. When I lost the vision in this eye, they said, something's going on, you need to go see these special doctors. So I took this banner, which is NORD's banner, National Organization, and held this. This is the actual banner I held in 2010 on the summit of Mount Everest to raise awareness. And so it's taken me 3 tries to get it across under the Burl Arch, which I did last night. And we wrote in with a pencil, so it says 2010 for Everest. Now it says 2015 for crossing under the Burl Arch in Nome and running the Iditarod. And people ask me which is... People ask me which is harder, because Everest takes 2 months. You live on a mountain at almost 18,000 feet or higher in a tent, with no heat sources whatsoever, no nothing, or the Iditarod. And for me, the Iditarod is much harder, because on Everest, all the decisions I made were based on just me. In the Iditarod, all the decisions I made were based on those dogs and what was best for them. And so it's a lot of responsibility out there. And so I am really happy to say that I got a wonderful, healthy, happy dog team out in that dog lot. And we got here to Nome, and it's great. I'm a little trail brain dead still.
Cindy, do you have any stories you'd like to, I mean, what was your favorite moment out there?
Crossing the finish line.
What moment with your dogs was your favorite? Crossing
The finish line.
Crossing the finish line. It was not a fun race this year. You know, I've run before, and there, believe it or not, there are fun parts of it. This race for me was not fun. It was, you can't run 60 and 70 below, camping out as much as we did on this race. And, you know, it's a lot of work, and taking care of those dogs properly. The mushers give up, you know, sleep and stuff. So it lacked the fun element for me this year, but that's fine. That's the Iditarod. That's what it is. You adapt and you adjust.
The fun is now.
The fun is now, yeah. Well, congratulations, Cindy, and here is your...
Got my belt buckle in here? Where is the belt buckle?
And we will be making up the...
How much did this belt buckle cost me to get?
How much?
If you're guessing close to $300,000, you're close. Wow.
Here you go, a plastic bag for you now.
I get to keep this.
Let's hear it for Cindy Abbott. Why don't you stay up here for some